John Weeks texted me this morning. He's unable to participate as his coaches for his volleyball league, children's volleyball league, are sick. So he texted this morning about 8:30, 8:40 that he would not be able to make it. The rest of the empty seats are people that did not respond. So thank you, participants, and we will start. You have 1 minute and 30 seconds to introduce yourselves. Originally, we were lined up in the order that is on the voter registrar's list. However, we condensed that so that they're not sitting too far apart. Though we did have some issues with who wanted to sit next to Robert, but other than that, everyone was just over. It shows their flexibility and willing to work with others.
Play as well with others.
And there is some motion to move him all the way to the end, but for the sake of the camera, we're going to keep him in the middle. We do have a mic. If you are having problems hearing anyone, raise your hand and they will use the mic. We'll start with Dane. 1 minute and 30 seconds. Timekeepers for their introductions.
All right. Well, good morning, VBTA. My name is Dane Bly, and I'm applying for the job to be your next at-large council member. And I'm asking you to hire me with your vote so that we can reduce the influence of special interest on the city council. We can set new priorities with smarter budgeting so that I can be your voice and your vote on city council. My opponent, Ms. Wilson, is a big government tax and spender. We all know that. Over the years, 16 years, she's consistently voted to raise taxes and fees. She's given out hard-earned money to favor developers. And she's already raised our taxes to bring light rail to Virginia Beach, and even voted to buy light rail cars that had snow plows and communication systems didn't even coordinate with the existing cars. So the bottom line is we can't afford the current majority on city council. I want to help small businesses and working families, especially the working poor and middle-class families, retirees, keep more of their hard-earned income. Let's diversify our economy and bring good, high-paying jobs in here. Let's end crony capitalism and create a level playing field so that everybody can get out and compete. And let's restore trust and accountability in the city council. And lastly, let's look at common sense and forward thinking to utilize 21st century technology to answer and meet our transportation challenges. Again, my name is Dane Bly, and I ask for you to hire me with your vote on November the 8th. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Jessica Adler. I'm running for the Kempsville seat for City Council. I'd like to point out that the incumbents are not here. This will make the third forum that the woman that I'm running against is canceled at the very last minute or not responded at all. And I think that that speaks volumes as to what your city government is doing. If you cannot approach people with all ideas and have a free exchange of information, your ideas were not very good to begin with. And it's imperative that we put somebody on city council who is not afraid to challenge the status quo and is not afraid to hear from people that don't necessarily agree with me. A little bit about myself. I've been running my family's business for the last 8 years. I am a licensed FEMA and NFIP insurance agent, and I have a deep understanding of what this area needs in terms of coastal flooding and what we need to do to try to protect against that. Another recent achievement, I was named Coastal Virginia Business Magazine Millennial on the Year, and I'd like to just end with this. If you're tired of hearing the phrase, it's what millennials want, it's time to put a millennial on city council. Thank you so much.
Good morning. My name is Robert Dean, and I am not a millennial, as most of you can tell. While Virginia Beach City Council continues to take credit for all the great accomplishments in our city, the awards and accolades really belong to you. You make Virginia Beach great. Our military, teachers, public safety officers, church and scout leaders, you make Virginia Beach great. Organizations such as the Roritan, the Optimists, the Noblemen, Lions and Shriners, you make Virginia Beach great. It is you who hold neighborhood fundraisers for a friend who's lost their job, or someone whose child has just been diagnosed with cancer. You truly made Virginia Beach great. Not 6 votes on council giving away your millions to benefit a few well-placed developers. Council needs to stop deciding who will succeed and who will not. I represent a common sense approach to protecting the financial stability of your families and businesses, returning to the days of an honest and transparent government. My name's Robert Dean, and no matter where you live in Virginia Beach, on November the 8th, you could vote for me, and I would be honored to have your vote. Thank you very much, Louis.
I am Richard Arcade Kowalowicz, and I'm running for mayor. Changing up my speech a little bit because people want to know, Rick, what I stand for. They know I've been beating up Will pretty hard, and I haven't finished with him yet, but we're talking a little bit what I've done. Years ago, they were closing the streets at the oceanfront and issuing pass systems. If you had a hotel pass, you could stay, you could drive on the streets. If you lived in the city of Virginia Beach and paid the majority of the taxes, you had to have a pass to get there. I fought and changed. I actually sued the city over that. I fought for small businesses at the oceanfront. They were going to shut them down, change the zoning ordinance, and I fought for them to stop that from happening. Public-private partnerships for the last, that's what got me involved in politics 20 years ago. I ran for office 16 years ago because of public-private partnerships who were picking winners and losers. We actually have taxes in this city that collect, a like business collects a tax to generate this competition. I fought against that time and time again. Teachers, when their teachers were looking for raises, I was up there screaming for them, pointing out the public-privates that were bad. Mr. Jones, you know that I was there a couple of times. Corruption. I'm the only person in this city or in this state that's got anything accomplished by corruption. 4 years ago, I called out the corruption in this city. 2 years later, Will Sessions was convicted of public corruption. No light rail. I got together with John Atkinson. We formed a team, and we got it on the ballot so you could vote yes or no. Where no council other than John Long's person, I called every one of them, would even put it on the ballot for an up or down vote. So, RK, we'll fight for you. Please vote for me. Help you make it better Virginia Beach.
Questions, just as a timekeeping effort, that you not clap because that stops the flow. But I do appreciate you clapping for their statements at this time. The first question, and none of these questions have been directed at a specific person, so I would assume that they are directed for all the candidates to answer. The first is, what plans do you have to deal with the perspective of rising seawater? We'll start with RK.
Well, obviously, I'm running for mayor. I'm not an engineer, so we have to hire the right people to get the right advice. So obviously, there's some things we can do. Things that are built, but in the future, as far as zoning ordinances, we need to look at where it's rising and where the properties are to see how those buildings are built. That would be the main thing we do. We can look at stormwater runoff, which I think we do that now. But those are things that we can do as a council, making that, but obviously we listen to the people as well.
Well, at the oceanfront, we've done an excellent job. Many years ago, we refitted the whole North Beach, put in a pump station that pumped the stormwater out to the ocean. And now it's time to move from the oceanfront to the home front. We need to take care of our neighborhoods, do a much better job of the stormwater relief. And we're spending money in other places that could be used to help the neighborhoods in some of their relief. One example is, of course, the around $37 million that we're giving to Bruce Holmes and Ed Ruffin to renovate the Cavalier Hotel. Our tax dollars that we're paying into the stormwater fee should be directed specifically for stormwater relief and any future surges that may be coming down the line as the sea level rises.
I favor a rain barrel program. I think that there is a benefit to the city in looking into setting up rain barrel programs with all municipal buildings and then using that water as recycled non-drinking water. A lot of municipalities across the country have done the same thing and seen a return on their investment as that water being recycled back into non-drinking. And I think that there's also room to look at giving individuals a tax credit for doing the same thing for their homes. Because the chief problem with our stormwater runoff is that it has nowhere to go and it sits. Whereas if we could hold some of that and either reuse it in our non-drinking water or then slowly release it, I think we would see a lot of success with something like that.
There's no question that if we could take, especially monies that right now are going to the library, and we use that for some infrastructure improvements, we'll have the money to meet this need, and it's going to take a lot of money to meet this need. We know the Navy's already prepared for it, and we have to do that in the city as well. So one of the first things we look at has been successful sand replenishment. And we know right now, you have the special district in Sandridge for sand, it's working. The ocean fronting works, and then of course we need it over on Chesapeake Bay as well. So all of our beaches, we're going to have to look at that. That's one step. Pumping stations we know for sure are going to help, and there's certain areas, certain neighborhoods that we desperately need that right now, where we already have flooding. So that, no question, we can take. Even common sense things like dune protection, let's replant native grasses, wetlands, we can look at expanding that. So there's some good common sense things that we can do as well, and we can meet this challenge, but our monies have to be there, and we have to prioritize that spending.
Next question will start with Robert Dean. What do you propose to reduce the burden on Virginia Beach taxpayers?
Well, I think first and foremost, the tax increase that the council just levied for this new 2017-18 budget, or 2016-17 budget, to increase your taxes, take away the tax credits and the tax relief for the elderly and disabled, should be rescinded. And as soon as I get elected on November the 8th, I'm going to introduce a resolution to do just that thing. There are so many things that are going on in this city that are non-core, that if in fact we did not raise the taxes every single year on our homeowners, our tax rate instead of being 99 cents would be 54 cents per hundred. Those homeowners who have more disposable income go out in the community, they spend their money, and it's proven everywhere that once you reduce taxes, government receives more revenue. That's the problem we have right now. We don't have a spending, we don't have a revenue problem, we have a spending problem, this city council.
Actually, our chair would be Jessica. Thank you.
Well, I think first it's imperative that we restore the elderly and disabled tax relief credit. But another thing that has been particularly bothersome to me is the Vibe District. We are subsidizing other artists locally's competition. The Vibe District gets an incentive for being there as the art district of Virginia Beach, yet there are artists all across the city that don't get any incentive for being artists in the beach, and that is irresponsible and immoral. We should not be funding the competition for other artists. I'm a musician myself, and it's imperative that we make it an even playing field, so if one person is getting a benefit, everybody needs to be getting a benefit, or no one should be getting a benefit.
No question. There are two very, very, very good examples to what we can do. And here, this actually is a copy of Councilman Moss's, his revenue neutral budget. If we remember last year when City Council was voting, he couldn't even get a second to actually, so the council could take a vote to prevent a real estate tax rate increase. So there are a number of ways that we could go about it. We talked about that. It really boils down to prioritizing spending. And if we think about it, the three priorities that we need to look at are public safety, public education, and then our public infrastructure. So if we stop giving money to favorite developers, if we look and we can reduce the tax rate or better utilize the monies that we're already using that's going to light rail, that's over $20 billion. It's a lot of money that we have. If we prioritize our spending like we should, there's plenty of money that we can do. Again, we don't have a revenue problem, we have a spending problem.
So in year 2000, our budget was $1 billion. This past year, it's $2 billion. So we definitely don't have a revenue problem, we have a spending problem. And by the way, in the last 7 years, your real estate taxes went up 10.5%. You now pay for your trash to be picked up. Then they increased that as well. Your stormwater fees have gone out of the charts. So here, think about this in your own personal lives. Has your income doubled? Our city income's doubled. We have had no growth. The oceanfront's down 30% in room rentals. Nobody wants to talk about that. We're spending a lot of money out there for nothing. We have to change the way we do business. The greatest growth is in the private sector for jobs. You have to create an environment that small business will grow, and then when small business grows, your taxes get less. And that's what we have to do. And with me, that is exactly what's going to happen. Public-private partnerships are going to go back to where they belong. Public needs to take care of the public, the private needs to take care of the private. Vote RK on November 8th.
Next question, we'll start with Jessica Abbott. How do you feel about eminent domain for economic development?
Well, I worked very closely with Robert when you fought the central radio station's eminent domain issue. I think that eminent domain should only be used for public programs that are only for building roads, building necessities to the city. We should not be taking anybody's land. If somebody wants to develop a piece of property, they need to go and have a conversation with the private owner of that property and decide on a fair value for that property, if that property owner wants to sell it to begin with. I oppose eminent domain in almost every situation.
Yeah, that was very straightforward and simple, and everybody worked very hard to make sure we had that constitutional amendment passed in Virginia, and that's very, very straightforward. The government should only have very limited use of that type of very, very destructive power. It's necessary in certain instances, but very, very limited, and we now are protected by the Constitution.
Free enterprise system is the greatest thing that we have in this country. That's why people come from all over the world to come here. You can't give the government the right to pick winners and losers. And if the government needs your property, you should be fully compensated for it. And I mean fully compensated for it, and only on a very limited access when it is for the public good, not for building hotels and road projects and town centers and things we don't need.
Dave Bly, do you have a plan?
Oh,
Sorry, okay. Just following the will of your children.
Don't take those comments away from my time, please. Ladies and gentlemen, on my brochure, and it's hard to pat yourself on the back, but I won the John Marshall Award, State Award for protecting private property rights because I worked for about 8 years with Senator Ken Cuccinelli to stop this eminent domain abuse and, in fact, get a constitutional amendment passed. We did. 75 to 25%. And ladies and gentlemen, you know what the biggest obstacle was in getting that done? The cities and towns, including the city of Virginia Beach, they wanted to keep that power. In addition, as a prelude to that, several years ago, before that, one person only, initiated a referendum to put the idea of an economic development department on the ballot, and it failed, 62 to 38%. And it was a very interesting thing, and I know it upset a lot of people at that time, and I think they still do.
Do you have a plan to reduce the trash, water, storm fees, parentheses, taxes?
Yeah, and certainly, I think when we look at the trash collection, if we could look at privatizing, would be a good method. I don't know for sure if it would. I do know this. I've worked in that industry. And the large, or there are even small companies that work that actually pick up trash. And if there are other communities that are doing it, I don't see why it wouldn't work in Virginia Beach as well. Maybe we could actually look at just a certain part of the city and start it out, see if we can do that, to try to reduce the trash fee that would save us all money. Certainly, if we increase our recycling rates, that actually saves money too. We actually pay $125 a ton to get rid of our trash. It's one of the highest, what they call tipping fees in the country. Part of that has to do with a lot of poor decision-making with SEPSA years ago when they tried to basically create a trash empire. And we're still paying the price for that as well right now. So that's one idea. Increase the recycling rate, saves money, it's doing the right thing, and then also we can look at privatizing solid waste, and I'll have to try to address stormwater, which is a whole other issue later.
I think there's a lot of wasted money spent in the city. My goal will be to find that and cut it out and put that money back in your pocket. I don't think you should be paying for your trash. I don't like the stormwater, which went it from $2 to $100, whatever it's going crazy here. I want to put that money back in your pocket so you can spend it where you want to spend it. I want to kill the waste, but let me say something to you. Before we can do all that, what we have to kill is corruption. We have to make sure we trust our government. If we can't trust our government, no election will ever matter. So I'm going to kill that first, and then I'm going to cut back where it needs to be cut back and put more money in your pocket. And when you do that, you create a level playing field for the business community to grow. So they don't have to feel like unfair competition. And that's how it will take care of itself.
Ladies and gentlemen, the issue of the stormwater fee goes back to 1993, when it was a mandate came down from the federal government.